Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our first podcast on the Dark Knight trilogy in anticipation for Dawn of Justice, or Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. Now, you're probably wondering, well, it's not technically an all-Batman movie. It's got Superman in there, too. Well, it's a new version of Batman. So I think it would make sense for us to look back on the previous Batman movies, at least the three that we're going to be talking about over the next couple months. And we're just going to talk about, we'll briefly go over the ones with Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer, and we're going to talk about George Clooney. Just very briefly as we can get stuff. We have to address that at some point. Let's see. Oh, I just got to post this. Okay. Just bear with me. I'm just going to share this on my Google Plus page, and that way everybody can hopefully get it. Let's see. Okay. Now, with Batman, we are going to be talking about the movie that started it all in 2005, over 10 years ago. My God.
Dang.
Yeah. But now we'll discuss this. We'll discuss that a little bit more as we go on in the video. But let's start off with 22TigerDude. Thank you for joining me, man.
Anytime, man. Glad to be back.
All right. Now, since we're talking about Batman, and there's a lot of anticipation going on with Ben Affleck's version of Batman, everybody's getting batty, us included.
Good pun.
So, what's your history with Batman?
Like in terms of like all the movies, or how I got introduced to the character, or
you could include like animated series or movies all together. That's where I was going.
I think it started ever since I dressed up as Batman for Halloween when I was 10 years old and all.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. There was just something about Batman that really interested me. Like, of course, when you're a kid, you just like him because he's cool. But when you grow older, you start to appreciate some of the things about him. Like, of course, I appreciate the Batman gear, but I appreciate how he's also willing to do anything to protect Gotham City.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a very cool character, and I mean, come on, who would not want to go in the Batmobile with him?
Oh, you kidding? I'd love to drive that thing.
Yeah, and then ever since I started to watch the movies, starting from the 1989 Batman all the way to The Dark Knight Rises, that's when I started to grow a huge appreciation for him. And he's very interesting as a character, but I like him because not only is he just a very cool superhero, but he's very human. Like, you could tell he's just a regular person that's just willing to do anything to protect the city. And I think that's why he probably is my favorite DC superhero.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on that. I'm more of a Marvel kind of guy personally, but with DC, it's mostly Batman. But I also like Flash and Arrow.
Oh yeah.
And but like, what's since we are talking about, like, have you seen the animated series with Kevin Conroy? I never really grew up and watched the series.
I haven't really gotten to see too many episodes. I think I've seen like 6 episodes of it, and I really liked what I saw so far. I need to see more of it because for what I saw, I was like, wow, this is a really good animated series.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much of the episodes either. I mean, the one that sticks out in my mind is the one where we first meet Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
Heart of Ice or whatever that's called.
I think it's something like that.
Okay, yeah, and it's a pretty good episode, I would say. It's kind of a little heartbreaking in a lot of ways because I think Mr. Freeze started out as just some villain. It's kind of like Doc Ock and Spider-Man, where up until the Spider-Man 2 movie, he wasn't really that interesting, but then you add something else to it where you could just go, oh, okay, I can get behind this guy now.
Yeah.
And what else did I saw I saw a clip of Batman, I guess, losing his vision or something, like in The Mask, and the Penguin gets wind of this, and he kind of throws him off balance, and then it doesn't go well for Batman for a while.
Poor Batman.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh, hang on. I just got a note here. But with Okay. Oh, right. Never mind. Okay, now since we mentioned the oh yeah, and we also, do you like the Mask of the Phantasm movie?
Oh, that movie is awesome.
Underrated.
Very underrated. Surprisingly, the only like animated Batman movie I've seen. Like when it comes to those animated DC movies, I get like so far behind with them. But for me, for that being the only animated one I've seen, I was like, wow, this movie is that's just I was speechless, kind of like right now.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by it too. I mean, I mean, it's easy to judge it based on the fact that it's animated, but people like if you watch this, you'd be surprised at how much character depth it has. Just like Batman Begins, we will talk about that in a little bit, but
Yeah.
surprisingly really good. And I wish it was on Blu-ray. Warner Brothers hasn't released it on Blu-ray. I just have the DVD.
Oh, I'm surprised it's not even on Blu-ray, to be honest.
Yeah. I looked up the Blu-ray, and Chris Stuckman even pointed it out at one point in the past. You just go, it's not on Blu-ray, really? Oh, come on, that's a good movie. Plus, you got Mark Hamill's Joker.
Oh, dude. Man, he was great as Luke Skywalker, but when he did the Joker voice, I was like, Mark Hamill, is there something you just can't do?
I don't know, and the Trickster. Don't forget the Trickster.
And of course, the Trickster in the Flash.
And of course, with Batman, there's the history of the movies. Like we have the Adam West Batman, which I've never seen, but I see the parts where he goes, pow, wham, swap, or whatever.
I just know it's campy Batman. It's
Oh,
not
right.
like Batman as of today where he's all dark. He was a completely different Batman.
Yeah, they'd never be allowed to do that now. Like
Oh yeah.
let's see. I just got my questions. Okay, I got it. Okay, let's see. Superior Spidey fan says in 2005, everyone was raving about Batman Begins, calling Christian Bale's interpretation the best ever done. However, with the Dawn of Justice, or Ben Affleck's version, on the horizon, people are now criticizing Bale's interpretation, calling him comic book. I think what he's trying to say: comic book inaccurate and weak. Do you think this is a criticism warranted or not? What do you have to say about that, Tony? Guys, I think you know what I mean. We've seen it happen with Spider-Man. Like when
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield showed up, people were criticizing Tobey Maguire, like sometimes very unfairly, I would say. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to get too deep into it, but what are your thoughts on that criticism?
I think personally, everyone's gonna have their different opinions and all, but I think it's kind of unfair to compare because each of these Batmans, from Michael Keaton's to Val Kilmer to George Clooney to Christian Bale. I know I saw that little face palm on your face.
I'm sorry.
To Ben Affleck.
I'm sorry.
To Ben Affleck. Each of their interpretations of Batman's going to be different. And I think just because Ben Affleck's Batman's going to be like new for this generation, that's why he's gained so much criticism. And I think that does happen when someone plays a character, in that time, they're going to be praised as the best. But then once you have a movie creating another interpretation of that character, that's when people are going to get on the bandwagon of criticizing, that new one, the old one, and just go for the new one. And I think it's kind of unfair personally to just criticize just because I feel like what Christian Bale did with his Batman was great. And Michael Keaton's own interpretation of Batman was great. And then George Clooney and Val Kilmer, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But each interpretation's different. I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, and Kevin Conroy, I saw a video of him from about 2011. I was at a New York Comic-Con. I forget. He was asked, what does he think of Christian Bale as Batman? And I think he said at one point he didn't like the voice, but that was in another gathering he was at. But he actually said that, no, I actually really like Christian Bale. And I also like Michael Keaton and Adam West. And then he brought up George Clooney, and people were just like, boo. Or, no disrespect to George Clooney. He's a great actor, but Batman, he's not. But Kevin Conroy also went on to say, my point is everybody brings something different to the role. As long as you make it your own thing, but also kind of keep in mind that this is a character that's beloved by many people, keep that in line with what it's all about, then you should be fine.
Yeah. like it's okay, like if Ben Affleck ends up being like the best Batman ever and people really think he's the best Batman, then that's cool. But personally for me, I just like to judge on that actor's own certain performance instead of like comparing like who was better at this role.
Okay. Oh, wait. That question that was answered was Spent Lizard. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought it was Superior Sprite. Hey, this question and thing is really doing a number on my brain. I'm sorry, Spent Lizard. I gave you the wrong name. But thank you for your question nonetheless. But yeah.
That was a good question, actually.
Oh yeah, it was. And I'm sure Ben Affleck looks really good as Batman. I have to admit.
Yeah, he does. And like the voice for what we heard in the trailers, I'm really digging like his voice. Like it sounds more robotic, I think it's the word, but it's an interesting new take on Batman.
Yeah, it's kind of like Arrow, where he uses his voice disguiser. But my only criticism with the voice so far, with Ben Affleck's voice, is it sounds a little too robotic. I think that maybe if he did something like what Arrow does, where it's kind of like, detective, we just discovered Wade Wilson's location. I mean, it's disguised, but you can tell it's still a person underneath that mask or that hood or whatever.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. Maybe like it's fine if the voice sounds different, but as long as you try not to make it sound too robotic, then it won't be like as distracting.
Yeah. Oh, Spent Lizard says thanks. You're welcome. For that question. And let's see. But I'm still going to give Ben Affleck a chance. And Christian Bale, he was the one that I grew up on because I didn't watch the Tim Burton Batman movies up until I watched Batman Begins.
Yeah.
And the first I remember, oh, wait, Spent Lizard just said, just call him Robat.
Robat.
Come quietly or there will be trouble. And where was I going? Oh, yeah, the first memory that I have, like the first set of memories I have for Batman was I saw Batman Forever in the theater with my dad. I was 5 years old. I do remember images really, but I don't really remember if I loved it or not. I think I might have liked it, but then I watched it when I was older and I just went, this is a little weird, but I prefer it over the Batman and Robin movie. So
yeah.
But I will say though, Michael Keaton, from what I've seen, I haven't seen 1989 in its entirety. But he was a pretty good Batman. I think he was a pretty good Batman. I mean, a lot of people don't like his Bruce Wayne. I mean, from what I could tell, some Batman fans aren't too crazy about his Bruce Wayne. I think he was fine as Bruce Wayne, but Batman, I think he made a really good Batman.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And Val Kilmer, you know what? I'm probably going to shock some people here. I actually don't mind Val Kilmer that much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I think he made a good Batman. It was just a pretty good Batman. It was just the writing that let him down.
Yeah. I think he's a serviceable Batman. Serviceable is the word for me.
Yeah. And, just missed the question. Superior Spider-Man fan asked, what do we think of the Tumblr or something like that? I think it was the Tumblr. What do you think of the Tumblr?
I haven't seen the Tumblr.
For Batman Begins.
Oh, the Tumblr. Man, my mind just went blank. What was the Tumblr again?
The Tumblr, that was the Batmobile for Christian Bale to drive around.
Oh, yes. That one was really awesome.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the design of the Tumblr and the Batsuit? Okay. What do you think of the design of the Batmobile in Batman Begins?
Oh, the design is so awesome, man. I love how big it is. I love how big the tire is. And and the doors and even the inside. When you look at the inside as he's driving it, it looks really awesome.
Yeah.
And I just love, and I know we haven't gotten to the movie yet, but in that one scene where he's like driving around town so he could save like Rachel because of her being like
hello
in that hello.
Oh, I just lost my signal for a second. My internet connection is being a little weird, so just bear with me if the router. So
no problem.
Is he saving Rachel and what we?
Yeah, like when he's trying to go all the way to like the Bat Cave, I guess you could say, like where that waterfall is.
Yeah.
Like the way he's just driving all the way over there and just making his destruction with the Batmobile, especially when he's going on the roof Like, oh my gosh, he's like causing so much destruction.
He's
But
not
man,
he's not on a street. He's flying on rooftops.
oh, the police officer's reactions was
Oh,
just so awesome.
yeah, I
Like,
mean,
especially that one police officer that was like, "Can you at least tell me what it looks like?" That drives by him is like, "Oh, never mind."
yeah. I mean, they're all just set. I mean, they're cops. They're gonna do their job. They just go in and do their job. But then they see this big tank. They just go, why? How are we gonna fight this thing? This is nothing like we've ever seen before."
They're all like, "There's a guy driving a tank."
A black tank.
Black tank. Yeah, but I really like the design of the tumbler. That's what they call the Batmobile, the tumbler.
Yeah, yeah. They get in the scene. Well, we'll talk about it more with like Lucius Fox, like when he's with Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne goes, "What's that? Oh, the tumbler?
Yeah.
Oh, you wouldn't be interested in that."
Yeah, I'm more used to calling it the Batmobile. That's probably why when you asked me about the tumbler, I'm all like, what?
Oh, yeah, oh, no, that's okay. Oh, and he also a superior Spidey fan also asked, what our thoughts on the Batsuit? And I have to be honest. I think the Batsuit for this movie is good, but I prefer the way it looks in the other two movies because you can move his head around, and plus, I think for production purposes, Christian Bale had said that he had trouble moving his head around.
Yeah, I could kind of see that a little bit when I was watching the movie. Like you could tell when he's turning his head around, he was kind of struggling a little bit.
Yeah, like he just had to use the upper part of his body to move around. I think the other actors before him had to do that too, like George Clooney, Val Kilmer, and Michael Keaton, because I mean, it's not like exactly they could make it flexible or anything.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I like the design of the suit personally. It looks more like with the Tumbler or the Batmobile in this one. It's more, since this movie's more grounded and in a realistic way. It looks more militaristic because like Lucius Fox goes over, this is a suit for advanced infantry, Kevlar biweave, whatever that's called, and because Wayne Enterprises, I guess, built that for the military. So
yeah, true. I really like the design of the Batsuit. You could tell that, in the other two movies, the suit is a little more advanced. He could do a little bit more, especially like with the moving around. But considering this is a suit that helps him begin, as the title states, as Batman, I think it's actually a really cool origin suit because, some superheroes, when they get started, the suits they have don't look that good, but like with Batman, he actually has a pretty kick-ass suit for someone that's just like starting as Batman. Yeah. Like I love the black look. I love his mask. I think everyone in terms of design and color and details, it just fits so well. And he's definitely Batman once he's in that suit. Like you do see Batman on the screen, and that's always important when the actor goes into the suit. So I honestly really love the suit, if I have to be honest, for Batman Begins.
Okay. Now let's get into okay, we've talked about Tim Burton's Batman movies. I think most fans consider them to be good, but not like the best. I don't know if that's your consensus.
My thoughts on 1989, I think it's great. I actually thought it was a very awesome movie. Like Michael Keaton as Batman, Bruce Wayne, and then Jack Nicholson as the Joker. He was fantastic as the Joker. So so it's like one of those fun popcorn movies. I think it's great. Okay. Batman Returns I actually rewatched recently, and because I haven't seen it since I was like 15 years old. So I just rewatched it like last month, and that one was just okay to me, honestly, compared to the 1989 one that was very disappointing in my opinion. So it was just fine. It was okay.
I haven't watched it since I think it was about, I first watched the Batman Begins when I was it came out when I was 15. It was June, or I was about 15 years old. So I just got really into Batman, and I watched Batman Returns, and I had a similar reaction you did at the time. I probably have to watch it again just to be sure, but I just remember kind of going, okay, this is really weird. I don't know if this is for me. And I've heard a lot.
It got too all over the place for my taste.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say it's very Tim Burton like.
Yeah.
So, oh, we just got 2 new questions. Let's see here. Rachel Wagner. How you doing, Rachel?
Hey,
She asked,
Rachel.
what's that?
Oh, I just said, hey, Rachel.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's see. She asked, do you think it gets a little silly with the poisoning the water and the microwave emitter? You know, I have to be honest. Like, I do find that a little too comic booky. To a certain extent. I mean, I do like the idea of how it can destroy the water supply or like the water in its surroundings. But then you kind of ask, well, wait a minute. Human beings have water in their bodies, so wouldn't that destroy them or something? But
Yeah.
luckily, they don't explain it. I mean, it's a little bit comic booky, I would say, and that's probably one of the 2 complaints I have with the movie. We'll talk about that later, but
Right.
I would say maybe a little bit, but not as. I don't think it's really that ridiculous because they don't try to explain everything. It just kind of says it destroys the enemy's water supply, and that's all it says.
Yeah, it just kind of goes straight to the point.
Yeah, because. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I really like that the movie did that.
Yeah, because then if you try to say like it destroys all water, then it kind of opens more questions. So you just go, well, wait a minute. What about, wouldn't that happen to a human being?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I'm okay with the microwave emitter, personally. I don't mind it.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, so let's see. Now that with Batman Begins, this is very revolutionary for a lot of reasons because it introduced the idea of a reboot because let's be honest, with Joel Schumacher's Batman movies, they really drove the franchise into the ground. And I myself, I wasn't a huge Batman fan at the time, but when they announced that Batman Begins was coming out and they showed the trailer, all I got really was a horror movie vibe from the trailer. I just went, this is Batman, and they're doing it like a haunted house thing. At least that's how I remember thinking about it. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I remember watching the trailer. Of course, I'm very young at that time, so I'm not gonna. So it's not like I'm gonna have much of a reaction compared to how you are when you're older. But I just remember watching it, going, "Is this supposed to be Batman, mommy or daddy?"
Yeah, but of course, we all know now in retrospect, this movie blew all that negativity out of the water. So
yeah.
But seeing it now, and we'll just, since we're talking about the movie now, Superior Spidey fan asks, what are your opinions of characters like Rachel Dawes, Jim Gordon, and Ra's al Ghul? Now, since we're talking about that, the movie opens up. We see a young Bruce Wayne playing with a young Rachel. Like they're playing Finders Keepers with the small arrowhead that she finds in Bruce Wayne's garden at his mansion.
Yeah.
And of course they're playing along, and he falls into the well. And Rachel sees what's going on, so she runs to go get help. And what's it go? Oh yeah, and then he gets swarmed by the bats. And
yeah, that's when his fear of bats starting to kick in.
Yeah, and then it cuts to him being stuck in the prison somewhere in Asia, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Where he gets into a fight with one of the prisoners. You're an ill little man, and I am the devil. And he goes, "You're not the devil."
I love the line. I love the line. You need protection. I don't need protection. No, protection from them.
Yeah, that's a funny line. Yeah, it's like, because at first you just go, "Well, protection. He doesn't need any." It's like, oh, okay.
Because they're all laying the ground going, oh. That's the thing about this movie too. I liked how I really loved how much humor was actually added into this film.
Yeah, a lot of people now are starting to criticize it that it's too dark, like that there's no humor. It's like, guys, did we watch the same movie? Or what?
I think this is the lightest movie because I think 2 and 3 started to stretch into the more dark territory. You know, there was still humor added in those movies, but there wasn't as much compared to like Batman Begins. So, like this movie has its moments, but I don't think it's anywhere near as dark as the other 2. I think this is the one that wanted to try to have, I guess, the most fun with itself, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I could see what you mean by that. Yeah, and then of course we meet. He goes into this confinement, as it's pretty obvious. But then we meet Ra's al Ghul, who, I'm just gonna say this. I've seen a little bit of the guy who plays Ra's al Ghul in Arrow season 3. I need to watch the rest of Arrow season 3. But I will say, that's my dog. Just ignore that. I would say Liam Neeson is probably the best live-action interpretation of Ra's al Ghul, personally, for me anyway.
I agree with you.
And I would, when he came in, I forget what he said entirely, but I was expecting him to go, I know who you are, Mr. Wayne. And if you let my daughter go, I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will find you, Mr. Wayne, and I will kill you. He's just so famous for Taken now that people, I guess, seem to forget that he was in Batman.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on his name is, he goes by Henry Ducard, but then he's revealed to be Ra's al Ghul. But what do you think of this interpretation of Ra's al Ghul?
I thought Liam Neeson did a great job. I mean, when you look at the character, like I don't follow like comic books or anything, but sometimes I like to go on Google Images and look up the character just to see if that actor looks like that character. And I think Liam Neeson really presents that character very well. He has the look of that character and the mannerisms of the character very well. And he was very interesting. I liked how he's the one that was training Bruce Wayne. He's the one that told him not to conquer your fear instead of laying it all in. Like, that was actually very interesting to me. Obviously, he's revealed to be the antagonist later, but I think both as a trainer and the antagonist as Ra's al Ghul, which is later revealed in the film, I thought he made his character very interesting to him.
Yeah, and I think the script I think it was both by Chris Nolan and David Goyer. They did a really good job of making you, along with Chris Nolan's direction, I would say, they do a good job of making you, like, it's one of the best kind of villains. You understand why he believes in this, but you have to keep in mind, no. This is wrong. I know why you're doing it, but this is not the way to fight to get justice, because they want to kill people, like innocent people, not just crooks or whatever. And even if they want justice, they don't want it to do it fairly, because as Bruce says, I'm not going to become an executioner.
Yeah, and that's probably why he is a very interesting villain, because, yeah, what he does is wrong, but you could get an understanding of why he's doing all of those bad things that he somehow thinks is right for it, that he thinks is right.
Yeah. And also, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, I guess, or it's like two sides of the same coin. Bruce learns a lot from Henry Ducard, Ra's al Ghul, but he's also his enemy, because once he learns of the League of Shadows' true intentions, that's where he goes, oh, okay, I appreciate you training me, but this is where I got to draw the line.
Yeah.
And since we've mentioned Bruce Wayne, as far as I'm concerned, I have yet to see Dawn of Justice in its full form. But Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne, I think, is definitely the best Bruce Wayne that we've had in live action.
I think so as well. Because I think, I think out of everyone that's portrayed Bruce Wayne, he looks the most like Bruce Wayne. Michael Keaton, I think, is a pretty good Bruce Wayne too, to be fair. Yeah. But I think Christian Bale has the better look of Bruce Wayne, and you could kind of buy him a little more as this rich billionaire.
Yeah, he has the look of a billionaire. I mean, I haven't seen American Psycho, but like, he looks good in a tuxedo and a suit and a tie.
Yeah,
and he's not a tall guy. I think Christian Bale's like, what, 6 feet tall or something like that. I don't know, but I think Batman's supposed to be like 6'5" or something like that. But he really, if you look at some of the pictures of his muscles, like there's one scene where he's standing on those poles or whatever, and everybody's like throwing like things at his abdomen, and he's just trying to withstand it and everything. All the abs that he's got, it's like, dude, you really are jacked right now. And I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you, man.
Man, Christian Bale, he's the king of losing his weight and gaining weight for his movies.
Talk about American Hustle. He lost 3 inches in his height because of that, because he gained so much weight.
Yeah, and then for The Machinist, I've only seen bits and pieces of The Machinist, but if you see The Machinist, he's like one skinny dude. Like, he's this skinny.
I've seen pieces of that too, but it just makes me go, "Oh my God, how did you do that?"
And how are you able to gain this much weight in time for your next movie?
That's a question that I don't know if it'll ever get properly. I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal did the same thing from Nightcrawler to Southpaw. And Matt Damon did something similar. Like for, I guess it was The Informant. He was very kind of frail and thin. And then for Invictus, I haven't seen either of those movies, but then he had to regain the weight because he was playing a rugby player. Now, from serving in the military, one of my friends who was in the military, he played rugby for his school, and those guys have a lot of muscle to them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And okay, now that we've discussed Bruce Wayne and Ra's al Ghul, then he's also got other characters to support him. We've got Rachel Dawes and Commissioner Gordon, or he's not Commissioner Gordon at this point. So, wait, we got a couple of comments here from Rachel. Let's see. Was certainly better than Batman and Robin. Oh, she's talking about Batman Forever. Okay. Thank you, Rachel. I will agree with you there 100%. And and Spent Lizard also says, Liam Neeson is great in everything. Don't question it. I wasn't questioning it.
Honestly, even in the bad movies, he's still really good in it.
Oh, yeah. He's effortlessly watchable. I think Chris Stuckman might have said that. I can't remember correctly, but
yeah, like The Haunting. Oh god, that movie is so unbelievably terrible. Well, I did a review in it on my channel in October. If you guys want to check it out, let's just say, yeah, that was not an easy watch. But Liam Neeson, for a movie that was very shitty, he did a very good job in it.
Oh boy, let's see. Rachel Wagner says, I like that this film focused on Batman and Bruce Wayne as characters more than most of the Batman movies, and less on the villains. And I can see what she's saying, because like with Batman 89, we'll go back to that real quick. From what I saw, that was very heavily focused on the Joker, because, Jack Nicholson was good as the Joker. Not my Joker, personally. We'll talk about Heath Ledger next time, and of course Mark Hamill. Those two are tied in my book. But yeah, that was very, very heavily focused on Jack Nicholson's Joker.
And they could have titled it 1989's Joker, really.
yeah, and I think the Schmo said that at one point a couple years ago. We talked about it with Chris Stuckman, like when they were reviewing it, like once in a while on their channels.
And like even with Batman Returns, like even though Batman has more focus than he did in Batman 1989, it still feels like it's the Penguin and Catwoman's movie. At least to me, it does.
Exactly. Yeah. And Rachel Wagner also says, I like the animated Bruce Wayne Batman best. Okay. I like a little bit of both, personally.
Yeah.
Along with the video game interpretations, like with the Arkham series. That's a really good interpretation of Batman. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that isn't entirely accurate, but, adaptations, that's going to happen.
Yeah, they're always going to find ways to switch things up whenever you do these adaptations or different interpretations for, like, movies.
Because, like, if you go by the comic book standards all the time, then all you're really doing is just going in circles.
You're just kind of copy and pasting. At least to me, that's what I think.
Yeah. Oh, Spent Lizard never said you were questioning it. Well, good. Now that we're on the same page. And also, to answer a Superior Spidey fan's question, two other characters that he brought up were Jim Gordon and Rachel Dawes. Now, Jim Gordon is a very key figure in the Batman mythos.
Yeah.
He's the one on the in the Gotham Police Department who's supportive of Batman, even if it's unofficially, because Gotham has a law, no official sanctioning of vigilante activity. But considering the setting of this movie, the city, they do a good job of showing you just how corrupt it is. Like when Rachel, the day that Bruce Wayne's parents' killer is murdered by the mob, she drives him down to this very poor area where there's a lot of homeless people walking around, and then you see when he goes in that great scene where he confronts Carmine Falcone, Tom Wilkinson's character, and there's like, look around you, kid. You got a union official, a couple off-duty cops, and a judge. Shows you just how deep the city's government is in the mob's pocket, or I think that's the way to put it.
Yeah, that was one of the things I loved about the movie, how they showed you the corruption, it's like they tell you, but they tell you in a way that makes it very interesting.
Yeah, and I think it also, considering that, considering the stuff that's going on in Gotham, Jim Gordon's one of the few good, honest cops left in the city, he doesn't really have much of a choice, but other than to rely on Batman because he does what the police can't do, and the police do what Batman can't do. That's kind of, I saw it in the Dark Knight novelization. I still have the book. I forget where I put it. Yeah. Harvey Dent says this to Rachel in a scene that was cut out of the movie for obvious reasons for time, but he says like, I'm like a surgeon who can only cut skin deep. Batman can do the things that outside of the law that I would not be able to do. Like I can't just go into a book's apartment and arrest him. I need Batman's help to do that.
And I really liked him because he wasn't really doubting Batman from the start. Like he'll probably question, wait, who is this guy? But they didn't really go with the cliche like, should I trust this guy or should I not? Like as soon as Batman got him to help him with certain things, he's just all like, okay, I'll help you. Yeah. Like he was already loyal to Batman right from the start. He didn't even question Batman. He's just like, okay, I'll do this to help you.
But yeah, because he saw him as someone who was finally taking a stand, who's finally through with all the BS that was plaguing the city. It's like somebody has to stand up.
That's true,
guys. And Rachel also says, I just wonder why people don't move away from Gotham. That is a good question.
That's actually a good point.
It's kind of like in Daredevil season 1. Like Hell's Kitchen is so riddled with crime. Like people who want to live there is like, okay, that is your home, but why exactly do you want to live there?
Yeah, so like why continue all the explosions, the shootings, whatever shit happens in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Gary Oldman did a great job as Jim Gordon. Like he obviously he has the mustache right there. Yeah. And I like how they establish a respect that Bruce Wayne has for Jim Gordon, because the night that his parents are killed, which is I have to admit, that's a really, really tragic scene right there when his parents get killed. It's chilling, really.
I'm not gonna lie, every time I watch that scene, I almost want to kind of cry, because you could tell that his parents were very good parents, and they obviously cared for his son very much. Like, yeah. Look at the opera scene. The opera clearly showed, like, instead of the father getting mad and saying, "No, you're gonna sit there and watch this," he just says, "Okay, son, we'll go."
Yeah. He knew, because like with the bats attacking him earlier, he saw that they resembled the bats, and he just went, "Yeah, let's get out of here. This is too much for him."
Yeah.
And it's also like with Jim Gordon, he's a uniform officer at that point, so he puts the coat around Bruce Wayne, saying, "Hey kid, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. Nobody's gonna hurt you. You're gonna be okay. We got your back," which would later factor into Dark Knight Rises. We'll get to that later. It's like even someone who puts a man who puts a coat around a young boy's shoulders to let him know the world hadn't ended.
Oh yeah. Hey, good voice, by the way. Good voice.
Thank you. We'll talk about that in the when we get to that movie. I think in March, right around Dawn of Justice. But it shows you right away. That scene alone shows you that Bruce Wayne remembers that generous act that Jim Gordon had, or that he did for Bruce Wayne when he was in a moment of despair.
And that's why he's the one that got him. Like, he's pretty much the first person he turned to help him with the stuff he needs to do to save Gotham City.
Yes, I agree. And now, as far as the Rachel Dawes, this is something that some people are a bit divided on. I was not really crazy about Katie Holmes for a while, but watching it recently, I honestly didn't mind her that much. I think she did a fine job as Rachel, and the character of Rachel was created for this series.
Yeah.
Some people prefer Maggie Gyllenhaal. I have to admit, when I watch The Dark Knight, I prefer Maggie Gyllenhaal, but then when I watch this, I just go, but I kind of like Katie Holmes though too. So, what are your what do you think of Rachel Dawes and Katie Holmes?
I think honestly, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I think she was actually the right choice for Rachel Dawes.
Okay.
Because I thought she, like Maggie Gyllenhaal, she did a great job, But even when I rewatch The Dark Knight, sometimes I'm like, man, you're doing a good job, Maggie, but I kind of miss Katie Holmes because you're so used to her playing this role here in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought she did a very good job portraying the character. She was actually a pretty strong female character. That's something I feel like people don't really see, that she actually is a pretty strong female character because she cares about Bruce. She wants him to be a better person, kind of see more of the light. And what she told him about how it's what you do that defines you.
Yeah.
Like she wants to really help him. And then of course when she's doing like all her detective stuff, she wants to do anything she can to protect the city as well. So I really liked how she portrayed the character, and I think the character herself was very interesting to me. And I bought into like the chemistry that she has with Bruce, because you could tell that they were very good friends. Obviously, they'd grown up with each other. So when you see them older, you could still see that they still kind of have that same bond. It may be like different from when they were kids, but you could still see the care between the both of them.
Right. Yeah. And she has the same hatred for injustice that Bruce has and Batman has, which it's another reason why he turns to her for help.
Yeah.
As Batman. And I do like how like the last conversation they have before he disappears for 7 years. We'll get to that later when we talk about like the overall narrative. It's like with the flashbacks and whatnot. But I do like she's disgusted by his wanting to kill his parents' murder, and she says your father would be ashamed of you, and that doesn't sit well with him, obviously. So I think it kind of makes sense as to why he didn't contact her at first when he first came back to Gotham, because I guess he was afraid that she still hated him or something.
Yeah.
And she was a bit surprised too. It was like, he's back? Why didn't he try to call me or anything? I just want to go, well, you didn't exactly say something nice to him last time you saw him, but it is what it is. But he, I think it starts off like she sees how he acts in public before she finds out that he's Batman. She's a bit turned off by his playboy persona, which he's putting on for obvious reasons. Because Batman shows up as soon as Bruce Wayne comes back, he has to put on that facade. Otherwise, people are just going to go, could he be Batman?
Yeah, like it would be way too obvious. So it's like he had to pretty much act like he's this snooty playboy philanthropist. Like, how do you say it? Like how Tony Stark
Genius billionaire playboy philanthropist.
There you go.
Yeah.
I could never pronounce that word for some reason.
Yeah, and I think I do like Rachel in this movie, and I don't mind Katie Holmes. And you are right; she is a strong female character. Yeah, there is a time where she needs to be saved, but it's not handled in a way where you just go.
Yeah, and the other reason she was saved was because of Crane, aka Scarecrow, drugging her. You know what I mean? Like that was understandable for her to be saved, because it's not like you can save yourself when you're all drugged up. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And she put herself into a situation not fully realizing that you shouldn't be here. That you're going to get hurt. Crane's going to know that you're onto him.
Yeah.
And we'll get to Cillian Murphy later. But I liked Katie Holmes, and we'll talk about it when we get to The Dark Knight next month. But that's probably the biggest. That's probably the thing that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb to me, is that I wish that she would have stayed as Rachel. But I don't mind Banky Gyllenhaal at the same time, because it is a little distracting when you look at the two movies and you just go, okay.
Yeah, kind of like how between Iron Man and Iron Man 2, you see Terrence Howard, but then you see Don Cheadle in the next one.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. And here we got a question here we got a comment from Rachel saying, I love the relationship between Alfred and Bruce. The dialogue is beautiful between the two. Since she brought up Alfred, we have to talk about the man himself, Michael Caine. Brilliant casting choice.
Agreed.
And, oh God, I can't think of a good line. It's like in the meantime, sir, may I suggest you try to avoid landing on your head?
That was funny.
Michael Caine. What do you think of Michael Caine as Alfred?
Brilliant. Honestly, the best the best presentation of Alfred, honestly.
Yeah, and Jeremy Irons, as good of an actor as he is, he's got some big shoes to fill.
Yeah. I know his Alfred will probably be a bit different, but I think for what Michael Caine portrayed, he did a very great job as Alfred, because Alfred has been with Bruce since the beginning, with everything from the parents' death. He's the reason why Bruce, why not Bruce, Bruce is like, is still, he's still keeping himself sane. And he even tells him he never gives up. So, it's cool that people like Rachel, even if she got mad at him about the whole killing the assassin, the person that killed the parents, you could tell she never gave up on him. You could tell Alfred never gave up on him. And I agree with what Rachel just said. The dialogue between the both of them is very beautiful. And there's even a few times where you get choked up because you're like, oh, don't do this to me, Alfred. Don't do this to me.
Yeah. And since you brought that up, Rachel just posted another comment saying, I got to say to him, best Michael Caine voice, why do we fall, sir? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Oh, that was a great line.
And watching that just a little while ago, I just wanted to go, damn it, Alfred, don't do this to me, man. You're making me sad.
And it doesn't even help when you have like the sad score playing behind. Like the score goes,
oh yeah. Oh, man. And since we brought that up, let's talk about Hans Zimmer's score.
Oh my God.
Blows my mind every time I listen to anything from it.
True.
Like I like the theme that sticks out in my mind with the overall musical pieces from the other three movies is the one that's playing during the police chase sequence when Batman's got Rachel in his Batmobile and he's going back and the cops are chasing him. It's like a da 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 da.
Oh, that was a great score.
Yeah, and I to be honest, I listen to that sometimes while I'm driving on the highway. Never a good idea.
Because when you're listening to it while driving the highway, you're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm Batman! I'm gonna crash into these cars." Yeah. Oh, sorry, woman.
Yeah, I do the same thing with the Star Wars music and the Back to the Future theme. I just go, I should not be listening to this right now, but I do not care.
It's like you're listening to the Star Wars theme, you're acting like you're driving a spaceship, and then you crash into someone and go, "Sir, you're not driving a spaceship." "Yes, I am. Shut up."
Yeah. Oh, just real quick here. Superior Spidey fan asks, thoughts on the Batcave in Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises and the Bat Bunker in Dark Knight? Oh, we'll get some more detail on that in the other two movies, but the Batcave in this movie, it's very simple, I would say.
Yeah, it's simple, but it gets Bruce where he needs to go because that's where Batman needs to be Batman. So like it's simple. It's at least there for him to help him out. Like when he had to grab that medicine to help Rachel not get drugged anymore, I guess you could say.
And plus, it fits with the overall theme of the movie. It's Batman Begins, so he's in the early stages of his crime-fighting career. So it makes sense as to why it's a very simple elevator, it's kind of like The Walk when they're getting that elevator. You could obviously tell that there's fences around the elevator. It's very obvious that he's a beginner, and his bat suit's in a closet of some kind. So it makes sense. It's very simple. And I like that. It doesn't try to overdo anything because, for obvious reasons, he's just starting out.
Yeah, but it's like as he's progressing as Batman, he'll be able to do more with it if he wanted to. Yeah.
And since and some of the other characters that I really like, we'll talk about the guys like Carmine Falcone, who's played by Tom Wilkinson. I think he's a little bit of a notable Batman character. He's appeared in a couple things here and there. He's mentioned in the Arkham series a couple of times.
Yeah,
like Sal Maroni. He's like I like to think of him as kind of like the Tony Soprano of Gotham City a little bit. Like if you've ever seen The Sopranos, probably get by that.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it, but I hear a lot about it.
Oh, it's a great show. Or I guess you could say he's like the John Gotti of Gotham City. John Gotti was the head of the Gambino crime family in New York City. It's like the five families in New York, like The Godfather, or Goodfellas, stuff like that.
Yeah, because he's apparently like the most powerful mafia boss in Gotham City, right?
Yeah, and Tom Wilkinson's a British actor. I'm surprised that he managed to get a New York, or New Jersey twang down to a T. Because, I mean, that's something that's not easy to do. I mean, even myself. I mean, we're American. Even I sometimes do it. My grandparents are from New York, and when I try doing it, one that comes to my mind is don't come down here with your anger, trying to prove something to yourself. This is a world that you never understand. You always fear what you don't understand.
And I like how he mixes that accent with his regular Tom Wilkinson voice, because you can clearly still hear Tom Wilkinson, but you're watching it going, yeah, you could still hear that accent, sprinkled into there.
And one of my favorite lines by Tom Wilkinson in this movie is, "So when did the nut take over the nut house?" Right before he gets gassed by a crane. And I do like like I said, I do like the scene between him and Bruce before Bruce takes off.
Or I like the line where he sees that Batman is beating the shit out of all of his men, the ones that protect him, and then he goes in the car, he goes into the limo getting ready to shoot. Batman's like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I'm Batman.
And the score, by the way, awesome moment right there. He goes, "I'm Batman," and the score cues up, and you see Tom Wilkinson's face. He's going, "Oh my God, who is this guy?" It just makes you go, "Oh, that's such a great reveal right there."
And then I laughed so hard at the line when he sees the homeless man, the guy that he switched his coats with. He's all like, "Nice coat, thanks."
Yes.
That part had me dying laughing, man.
Yeah, nice little connective tissue right there. And who else we got here? We got other characters like Detective Flass, Gordon's partner.
And we have Lucius Fox, played by Morgan Freeman.
Thank you. I knew I was forgetting somebody. Lucius Fox by Morgan Freeman, and Dr. Jonathan Crane, or Scarecrow, played by Cillian Murphy. Now, we got another question here. Oh, we got another comment. Let's see here. Spent Lizard says, "If you ask me, Rachel Dawes is another example of the misconception of female empowerment. She wasn't really that good of a character, as she was an archetype of what was considered to be a strong female character. Even then, she's no Ellen Ripley or Ray." Okay. I don't know what that's meant to be about, but, the opinions are opinions. So,
yeah.
So, I love the scenes between Lucius Fox and Bruce Wayne. They're perfect.
Yeah, me too.
I do like how he kind of has an idea of what Bruce Wayne's up to, because, he said, what's your interest in the suit, Mr. Wayne? I want to borrow it for spelunking.
And then before you know it, he pretty much becomes his tech guy. He gives him all of these gears he needs to be Batman.
Yeah, I do like how they make. I mean, like I said, we'll talk about it in the other two movies, but it's by the second movie, he knows that Bruce Wayne's Batman. I think it was probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah,
because it's I know what you do, and I know what you do, and we'll leave it at that. And yes, I will help you.
Yeah, it's I won't question you. I'm just gonna help you. How's that? That sounds good.
Yeah. It's Mr. Wayne, when I'm asked, I don't have to lie, but don't think of me as an idiot.
Exactly.
And Morgan Freeman,
because he's not an idiot. I think even when he gave him the suit, he's all okay, I think I know what he's up to.
Yeah, but he's not. But he's just gonna be a good employee and just help him out and everything. But
that's why he made him the CEO at the end of the movie.
Yeah, exactly, because he knew that he could trust him. And what was I saying? Morgan Freeman, a great actor, and he's never been bad in anything he's been in.
Exactly.
And we'll talk about more his role in the other two movies, because there's some other great lines in the trilogy.
It's so funny how he's like Liam Neeson in a way where even if he's in a bad movie, he's still really good and really entertaining to watch.
Yeah. Perhaps you should read the instructions first. Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't you get the memo?
Didn't you get the memo?
That was a nice burn to that guy. I forgot his name, but that was a nice burn at the end because of what he told Morgan Freeman when he fired him.
Yeah, and the character's name I think is Mr. Earl, and the actor's name is Rutger Hauer. I think.
Yeah, that's the character's name, Mr. Earl.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, my mind went blank with that character.
Oh, it's okay. And
Mhm.
got Scarecrow, played by Cillian Murphy, who Cillian Murphy has the right face for this character. He's got a haunted look to him.
I agree.
He doesn't have a huge part in the movie. He's not in it a whole lot in this movie in particular. And the other two, it's just like a small appearance. But I think if it's not really a complaint, I would have liked maybe just a little bit more of Scarecrow. But what we got of him, I thought was really done well.
Yeah, you could tell this movie focused more on a Batman origin rather than Batman facing a villain. Because normally with origin movies, it's normally okay, this person's getting started, and then the main focus is villain. But when you really look at this movie, the villains are kind of sidelined. But it's like for the parts that the villains have, like with Scarecrow / Crane to Ra's al Ghul at the end, I think the movie was able to balance the screen time enough for the villains.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we got a comment from Spent Lizard. Sorry, just voicing my opinion. No, it's all right, man. We all have opinions. Don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
exactly. You shouldn't be afraid to express your opinion.
Yeah, it's not easy with today's day and age on the internet because it's very judgmental. But not to get too deep into it. But just
Yeah.
if you got an opinion, just say it. But keep in mind that there's going to be people out there who don't agree with you. But anyway, where was I going with it? Oh yeah, I do remember thinking, like when I first saw this, when when Scarecrow sprays Falcone with his fear toxin, and then when he sprays Batman with the fear toxin,
Yeah.
it like you get sprayed with this stuff, which is the stuff that actually Bruce breathes in during his final challenge with Ra's al Ghul in the League of Shadows, but it's more weaponized in this way. But when
Yeah.
when he sprays it, and they see all this weird stuff happening, I remember just going, ugh, how do you fight that?
I know, like the hallucinations that they have to look at.
What'd you say? I lost you for a second.
Oh, like with those crazy hallucinations because of that drug that he made.
Yeah, and I do like the line like after Batman comes back and gets Scarecrow and he grabs him and he goes, "Taste of your own medicine, Doctor."
Oh, that was awesome.
Oh yeah, nice little payback right there.
Nice little payback indeed.
And I did get a moment like that in Batman Arkham Knight because there is a moment which I don't want to spoil it too much, but there is a moment kind of like that in Arkham Knight in the video game. But for people who haven't played it, I don't know if you care if I spoiled it or not or anything.
You could spoil it if you want to. Like I'm still playing like the Batman games right now, but it's not gonna be something I'm gonna probably remember. So it's okay if you want to spoil it if you want to.
Well, I don't think I will, but if you play the game, you'll know what I mean. But it's just just one of those little things that I noticed. That's all.
Just one of those little nods.
Yeah. And what was it? Scarecrow. And you got a couple other characters in here and there. They're just like very minor, like Mr. Earl. And then you got the little boy that Batman sees right before he gets gassed by Scarecrow, and he goes, "Oh, it's you." The other kids won't believe me, and Batman just kind of gives him a part of his gear, and he goes, it's like he's saying, "Well, they'll believe you now."
that was a cute little moment right there.
Yeah, it's this. Whatever people say that it's too gloomy, it's too dark, whatever. There are some lighthearted moments in this series. I don't know if those people watch the same movie or whatever.
I personally, in my opinion, it can be a dark series, but it's not like 100% all gloomy and sad. I think the movie does have fun with itself, when needed.
Yeah, and since we haven't talked about the Batman training yet, let's see, where did I go with that? Oh yeah, Rachel also says those hallucinations looked a little cheesy in retrospect. I thought. I guess you could kind of say they look a little too over the top because there are some things in there like when Flash gets like Detective Flash gets poisoned by the toxin on the Narrows Island, and he sees those two kids and he points the gun at them. They got this like ghoulish skull look in there, and you just go, "Ooh, that's a little freaky." But at its core, it's a comic book movie, so it's going to have moments like that.
Yeah, I didn't mind, honestly. There were times where I actually was kind of laughing at it because I'm like, it's over the top, but like it's a good over the top. It's not like anything too distracting with me.
Yeah, it's not a Indiana Jones in the fridge kind of moment. Yeah, I don't know why. I just thought of that. It just came to my mind. I don't know. But
Random things pop into our minds sometimes.
yeah, and Rachel also said, I think that's why I like it because the villains are more sidelined. She was talking about like how Scarecrow didn't have a huge part in the movie.
Yeah, like how this movie focuses more on like Batman and his start to being, well, Batman.
Yeah, and let's see. Rachel also says, I think the message of overcoming fear and dealing with grief is a nice one. Okay, now since she brought that up, let's talk about Bruce Wayne's overall character arc. Now, his parents get killed,
Hmm.
and it's intercut with the flashbacks of his training,
Yeah.
which I like. I think it's very well done because it shows you now. This is something that Man of Steel tried to do. It tried to do a similar approach.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I don't want to get too deep into Man of Steel at this point. But I don't know. I don't know how you feel about Man of Steel, but do you
Oh,
like it?
I love Man of Steel.
Oh, oh, really?
Yeah, I loved it. I know it's a very divisive, very dividing movie, but
Okay.
I'm one of those people that loves it, so I'm on the love side with it.
Okay. I'm in the middle. I would say. I thought I'd have to watch it again, but
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though. Man of Steel, when it's like cutting to Clark Kent like being all young and then older, like that's what you mean by that kind of approach, right?
I think so. Like, yeah, like shows you. I think it tried to show why he became Superman, similar to Batman Begins, why he became Batman.
Yeah, and I think how Batman Begins did that approach too was very cool. I like how they just did it by him being young and then him older and then flashing back to him and Rachel and then back to training. And then I think after that, that's when it cuts to him and his parents and, his parents getting murdered from there. So I did like how they presented that because I think it's quicker that way than to just start with him being, young and then growing up to maybe teenager possibly, and then growing up to being an adult and still trying to, conquer his, trying to get over his grief with his parents and then going to training. So I think how the movie executed that, they found balance. They executed in a way where it doesn't feel all messy or jumbled. Like they found the right balance, to show you his story.
Oh yeah, and I think the reason why it works in this movie is because they're working in both the flashbacks and the present storyline. They're working
Yeah.
in like the flashbacks are in chronological order. Like you first see Bruce Wayne fall into the pit, then you see his parents get murdered, and then like you see the after effects, like the funeral and everything, and then like I said, it's intercut with the training. And like the biggest example that comes to my mind is like how it fits very well together is when after Bruce falls into that ice, into that frozen pond, and he's trying to warm up, and
Yeah.
Ra's al Ghul is talking about like he once had a wife and who was taken from her, and he felt very vengeful and stuff like that, and that vengeance is what helped him become more at peace. And Bruce says, "That's no help to me." And he said, "Why, Bruce? Why did you not avenge your parents' death?" And then it cuts to the day that his parents' killer gets released.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant by that. It's like you see, like it goes to key points in his past that they're very relevant to what's going on in the present storyline. That's why I think it really works.
Yeah, I think it worked very well too.
And I think the overall theme, like what Rachel said, overcoming fear. I think I honestly wondered for a while watching this movie over the years, and until
Yeah.
recently, I just kind of go, "What's this movie about, really?" I mean, I know it's about Batman, but like, what's the main theme of this movie? And it didn't occur to me until I watched the scene where after Bruce passes his final test, like the
Yeah.
next to last final test, he goes, "First, you must demonstrate your commitment to justice." And he hands him the sword, and Bruce realizes what he's about to do, like to kill this guy. And he goes, "No, no, no, no. I'm not an executioner."
Yeah, that was something I was actually going to bring up like later on, like at the right moment. I was going to bring up the message about, the theme being grief and overcoming your fear. Because I think that's what makes this movie great, honestly. Like it does have its deeper themes behind it. It's honestly a really good movie to watch. Honestly, like say for example, if you lose someone recently, I think this movie is kind of a nice way to kind of teach you to, it's okay to grieve, and to overcome it, but to know that your loved ones are always going to be there for you, and to just kind of find your light in life. And there's also the fear part when you're scared of something, but you have to find what can help you overcome that fear. And that was basically Batman's journey in Batman Begins, giving over the grief because of his parents dying when he was young, and then just overcoming his fear of the bats. And because of him being Batman, he's now he's grown up more, I guess you could say. Like, he's grown up more as a person by the end of the movie.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think I saw it more as he's trying to not let the anger inside of him. He's afraid that the anger and vengeful side of him will consume him and he'll become a monster. I think that's what he's trying to overcome. As I watch
it, like not let the anger take the let the anger get the best of him.
Yeah, and I think it also shows you like why he doesn't want to kill. I think it goes back to the scene where after Rachel tells Bruce in that flashback, your father would be ashamed of you. It's like he wanted to kill his parents' killer, but somebody beat him to the punch. And since that guy is dead, he doesn't really feel any better. He still feels the same. He still has the pain. Like, he's standing on the edge of that dock. He's got his head hanging down. And that thought of the killer standing in front of his parents, shooting him and everything, the pain's still there. And then he throws the gun into the harbor. I think that's what kind of makes him go, you know what? I didn't kill this guy, but he's dead now, and I don't feel any better. I still feel that pain. That vengeance doesn't really make you feel better. I mean, it might for a little bit, but I think he still didn't feel better. I think that's what maybe told him, no. And that along with the final test, it's like, this doesn't make me feel better. I can't kill anybody. I have to show that I'm the better man.
Yeah, and even though he was grieving, part of him was telling him that Rachel was right, because I'm sure he might have regretted it later on, if that did happen. So maybe whoever killed that assassin, that person that killed his parents, it was probably for the better. He may not realize it at that time, but he'll probably realize it like later on.
Sure, yeah. And as he says to Ra's al Ghul, like, Ra's al Ghul says, "You want to fight criminals? This man's a murderer." And he goes, "No, this man has to be tried before we can decide what his fate is." And whether or not people agree with it, not to get too deep into like a political thing, but that's the best way to punish somebody. You have to, if you want to punish somebody for their crimes, don't do it like a firing squad on TV, like on the news or something. Do that. Punish that person according to the rule of law, as the law says. Let the law take its process. Now, Ra's al Ghul argues, says, "Yeah, tried by who? Corrupt bureaucrats?" And you just go, well, yeah, that's a good point. But you also have to keep in mind that the law, whatever you say about like the people in power, they also know what's best too sometimes.
Man, it's ironic when you can agree with the villain.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see.
It's like you're bad, Ra's al Ghul, but you make some very good points. Good for you.
just like the Joker and Bane. We'll talk about those two in the next two discussions. But yeah, it's just like, you get what they say, you kind of agree with it, but then you also say, no, I got to draw the line here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Superior Spidey fan asks, "Do you find the Batman Scarecrow scene creepy or scary?" I think it's more creepy, because you see what Batman's face looks like according to Scarecrow's hallucination. And I remember myself at the time, I think the first time I saw it, I just kind of went, "Oh man, that is freaky."
Yeah, because the look is all grimy. Like, you have this, but then his face is like all gray and it's all ugly looking, and you're just all like, "Oh man,
that's saliva dripping from his mouth."
Oh yeah, that too. Ugh, man.
Like, that is disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah, all I'll say is I never want to get drugged and have to face those hallucinations.
Oh no, definitely not. And let's see. Rachel says, "I like when he goes into the cave and is surrounded by the bats. That is a cool moment right there because if you remember, he's scared of bats, but then he stops himself for a second, and I think he's kind of remembering his training. So he just stands up, and the score is obviously swelling up and building up, and he's just standing there. That's where he gets his idea of what kind of mask he wants to take on and become a bat.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this comic book image I saw at one point from the original comics from the 1939, 1940. It's like Bruce Wayne sitting in this nice chair, and he's looking out his window, and this bat's flying against the window. He goes, "Yes, Father, I finally got it. I will become a bat." It's
interesting.
Okay, so 1940s comic book dialogue is cheesy, but it still shows you that symbolism that where he gets that idea. So
Yeah.
I like how it's handled in this movie too.
And honestly, even though I'm not really a comic book reader, sheesh, I can't talk. There's nothing wrong with some cheese in the comic books, though.
No, of course not. It's okay to be a little ridiculous sometimes because it is a comic book movie, and it's a guy who wears a bat suit and flies around the buildings and drives a big bat tank.
It's like look for example, Spider-Man's behind you. Spider-Man's meant to be more of a silly, fun type of character.
Yeah, Chris Stuckman said that in his review of the movie. Did you see his review?
Yeah, I saw that. That was a great review.
Yeah, and he said, not everything has to be dark and gritty. And he's right. But, I think you also need to find that balance, which brings us into the tone of this movie.
And I think it depends on that character, too, because every superhero is going to have a different kind of personality to them.
Sure, yeah. Now, the tone, since we brought up the tone is very, in this movie in particular, it's very murky, I would say. Very dark. It's a dark tone. It has some light aspects, but it has a very murky vibe. It's got like a brownish orange hue to it, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even the cinematography. By the way, it looks beautiful. I love the cinematography in this movie. How it's all shot.
Yeah, Wally Pfister did a great job with the imagery in this movie too. I'm sure Chris Nolan was handling a lot of the camera moves, but the cinematography. I don't know much about the technical aspects of a movie, but
yeah,
there's some imagery in here where you just go, "Wow, that's really impressive." Especially when Bruce is walking around in that open field towards Ra's al Ghul's castle.
Yeah.
And the wide shots of the mountains, and I looked it up. It's a lot of on-set locations.
And even when you just look at Gotham City, like when the camera just lets you look at the view of the city, you're just all like, wow, you actually believe you're in Gotham City.
Yeah, and a lot of those scenes they filmed in Chicago. The first two movies were filmed in Chicago as far as Gotham, and some other cities like London or LA or whatever.
Oh, really? I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, and there's one shot in particular, when Bruce is on the monorail, when he's younger, it's when they're going to the opera, and they look out at Wayne Tower, Tower, and this black building right next to it. It's the Sears Tower.
Yeah,
and the Wayne Tower in this movie anyway is actually in real life the Chicago Board of Trade.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I also like how they use because in the previous Batman movies before this, it was very gothic and very Tim Burton looking, at least in the Tim Burton movies. Joel Schumacher had a similar look. It was very, I have to say, cartoony. I have to say that word, but
I think it's the best way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, and this movie, it felt like a real city. It felt like a real American metropolis.
That's true. It's Gotham City, but it looks like something you would be in if you were actually in Gotham City. It fits for our time. If us humans actually lived there, that's what Gotham City would look like.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, Gotham City in this series feels like its own character. Richard Roper said something like this with Roger Ebert in their Spider-Man 2 review, back in the day, with New York City, the people of the city and the location and the buildings and everything. You see, I don't think I watched this movie. I didn't see any Burger Kings in there. Or anything like that.
I don't think I even spotted any Burger Kings either.
Or no. but it does feel like a real city. Like it has that sense of realism to it, which is what it needed at the time, considering where the franchise went.
Yeah.
And
And
I do like.
when comic book movies were like trying to find their footing.
Sure, yeah. And I do like. It's very murky. And it also. I saw this picture. It represents like the Twilight, not referencing the Twilight movies, but the Twilight of the trilogy, like the worst is yet to come, which we'll talk about with the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And the Dark Knight has that very razor edge feel, and Dark Knight Rises is more of a bleak feel, but it has a whitish hue to it, which represents a new dawn is coming. Like there's a new hope for the people of Gotham City, which like I said, we'll get to that in the next two discussions.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does really make sense.
Yeah, and okay, we talked about the tone, and I think we covered pretty much basically all the main points. But like with the if I have one complaint about this movie, I mean oh wait, let's see here. Rachel says, but I feel like people hold these movies apart from comic book movies. There's that silly comic book movie stuff in them too. Yeah, I think I get what she's saying. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like the comic book movies, whether they're lighthearted like the Avengers or if they're dark and gritty like the Dark Knight trilogy, there's going to be comic booky elements in there.
Yeah, like Batman versus Superman. It's kind of hard to tell because the trailers at first they showed us it was going to be all dark, and then we're watching the recent ones, and it looks like they're going to have a lot more comedy than what we're used to seeing in a DC movie. So it's kind of hard to tell what kind of tone that movie is going to mainly go for.
Yeah, are you talking about like the recent trailer that came out with Wonder Woman or something else?
Yeah. I think it was trailer number 3. Yeah, because the Comic-Con trailer made it seem like it was going to be dark and gloomy and all that. But then the new trailer came out. The one that pretty much that everyone says showed too much from the movie, like that trailer. Yeah. That one showed it was going to have like more comedy than what we're used to seeing in the DC movie.
Yeah, especially with Jesse Eisenberg. I love bringing people together. Oh, that's a strong grip. You should not pick a fight with this person.
Oh my God.
I'm just going to say this right off the bat. I'm not too excited about Jesse Eisenberg, but I'm still going to go see the movie anyway.
Yeah, I'm still excited for the movie, but Jesse Eisenberg is like, okay, you're like my biggest worry, Jesse.
Why couldn't you get Kevin Spacey to come back? I don't care if it's a different interpretation. Get Kevin Spacey.
You know who I would have liked? I would have liked Bryan Cranston. You know Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad, Godzilla.
He was the obvious choice.
I could have seen him as Lex Luthor easily. Like, can you just imagine him saying the lines that Jesse Eisenberg is saying? Like, just picture him saying the lines he's saying.
He'll say it in a more methodical way. I love bringing people together. Oh,
and he's gonna be wearing that wig that Jesse's wearing.
Well, since he's not Lex Luthor, here's my idea. Cast him as Commissioner Gordon. We haven't seen Commissioner Gordon mentioned at all. Cast him as Commissioner Gordon.
That's actually a good one. He could pull off the mustache like Gary Oldman can. And I think as far as having the physique of the character, he can pull it off. Yeah,
especially in his look in season 1 before he shaves his head and everything. He's got the look. He looks similar to Gary Oldman's look as Commissioner Gordon, but he's got the look. And I just go, get him as Commissioner Gordon. If you haven't chosen somebody yet, get him.
Yeah, it's like if you can't get him as Lex Luthor because, sorry, Jesse took it, cast him as Commissioner Gordon.
Exactly, yeah. And if I had one complaint about this movie, I mean, the microwave emitter, I think we've covered that. It's a little too hokey, I guess, because if it vaporizes the water in people's bodies, but it doesn't go that far, so it just kind of sticks to the main point. But if I have one complaint, it would be the camera work in the action scenes. It's a little too quick cut, I would say.
I think I know what you mean. Like when there's a fight scene happening, like when there's one punch after a kick, you feel like it would cut too much to like different angles, right?
Yeah, but it's luckily it's handled a lot better in the other two, and I think it's because Chris Nolan was not used to filming action at that point.
Yeah, like I think I didn't have problem with the action personally, but I do know some people that had that same problem that you have. So I think those that had that problem with the action in this film, I think Christopher Nolan listened to the criticisms, and that's how he was able to improve on The Dark Knight. Because yeah, like you said, before the Batman Begins, he directed small films like Memento, Insomnia. So he wasn't used to filming these big blockbuster action movies at that time.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, I do like the final fight between Batman and Ra's al Ghul on the train. I think I saw it on the list as like one of the best train fights, train sequences, along with Spider-Man and Doc Ock on the train, or the Back to the Future Part 3 train sequence.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a little too quick cut, but you know, there's a lot of emotional stuff going on between these two characters, like student versus mentor, that I can look past that stuff personally.
Oh, and I love the quote that Batman says to Ra's al Ghul before Ra's al Ghul dies, when he's all like, "I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't have to save you," and he just goes, "See ya, bitch."
Yeah. Like, later, sucker.
And Ra's al Ghul, you know, as he's about to die, he's just taking one last look. He's all like, "Oh shit!" And then that's when he dies in that train.
It's like he's meditating. He's like, because you know he's very spiritual, and he just goes,
yeah.
And I mean, oh yeah, and also the stuff that goes on with Gordon driving the Batmobile. Can you drive stick?
Oh, that's awesome. Can you imagine actually driving the Batmobile, the Tumblr?
Oh, I would be excited but freaking out.
I'm sure Gary Oldman was happy. It's all like, okay, so what do I have to do next, Mr. Nolan? Okay, you're gonna drive a Batmobile. Finally. Thank you, Mr. Nolan.
Well, he says in the movie before that chase sequence, "I gotta get me one of those."
That was funny.
Yeah, and I also noticed this. I've noticed it before watching this movie, like when he's driving underneath the monorail line, and what's it? He goes like he hits a couple of cars. He's like, "Oh, sorry."
So he's basically like Batman, where he's like creating destruction.
Yeah, but he's also a cop, and he's just kind of like, "Oh God, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that."
Because he was getting used to driving it.
Yeah, and lost a comment from Spidey fan, Superior Spidey fan. I'm sorry, I didn't see your comment. If you have, I think you said something about batting up or something. I don't know. I saw a split second of it. Batter up. Let's see. Spent Lizard says, "We wanted Heisenberg, not Eisenberg." Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. I did not even think about that. Eisenberg.
Yeah.
That did not even cross my mind.
Jeremy John said that in his video when Jesse Eisenberg was announced. I just remembered that. Thank you for pointing that out, Spent Lizard.
Yeah, that's right. He did say that, huh?
Yeah, can we get Heisenberg? Oh, yeah, we'll call Eisenberg. No, not Jesse Eisenberg. Heisenberg, Bryan Cranston. Like, no. We got him. See, and Rachel also says, it could use a good edit. It drags a bit for me. Fair enough.
I'm gonna be honest. For this being a 2-hour and 20-minute movie, I didn't feel a single moment dragging. Like, I thought the movie was very well paced from start to finish. Because by the time this movie was over, I'm all like, "Wait, that's it? That was a 2-hour and 20-minute movie?"
Oh yeah, I think it was. Yeah, one thing about these movies, these three movies in particular, they're very long, but they move and move and move, and you're just sucked right into it.
Especially The Dark Knight Rises, because that movie is 2 hours 45 minutes long, the longest in this. It's the longest movie in this trilogy, and yet it doesn't feel like that running time.
Yeah, but I think it noticed it the most with The Dark Knight, because that just moves and moves, and you're just like, I watch it sometimes, and then we get to the part where Harvey Dent goes, "How long do you calculate you last in there?" And I just go, "Wait a minute, weren't we in the Chinese sequence for a second ago?" That's one thing I gotta say. It's one of those, and these three movies in particular, these three movies for me, they're the kind of movies where I just go, okay, I can't just casually watch these. I have to be in the right mood. I have to sit down for a good 2 hours or so and devote my time to this movie, which is what I did watching this movie. And I was locked right in, just like I was before.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's not like the first Spider-Man or like maybe the second Spider-Man where you could just kind of pop it in and like while you're cooking dinner in the kitchen. I got a DVD. We got a DVD player in our kitchen and a TV. So
right.
And so we just kind of pop it in, watch it, and just go, oh yeah, here's that part. Batman Begins, we just go, we gotta have to sit down and watch this on family movie night.
Because you have to pay attention to the storyline details and what the characters are up to.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Nolan has been criticized for like some of his movies, like plot holes and stuff. We'll talk about those in Dark Knight Rises. I got some things to say about the plot holes arguments in Dark Knight Rises, but we'll get to those later. But one thing I will say, his scripts are very, very heavy and very dense.
Yeah, I mean, even looking at the Batman movies aside, look at Inception and Interstellar especially. The amount of details and the amount of complexity, holy shit, that those movies have. It's just like you just kind of go, man, Christopher Nolan, what kind of mind do you have?
Yeah. And it's been a while since I watched Inception. I want to watch it again soon. But Interstellar, I do remember walking out of the theater and just kind of going, okay, I need at least 2 days time to digest this, and I'll be fine.
Yeah, I was the same way. Like, even though I came out of the movie going, wow, I was just mind blown. Like, I was mind blown from Interstellar. And that's funny. That movie, that's probably Christopher Nolan's longest movie. Like, it's longer than The Dark Knight Rises by like maybe 5 minutes.
Oh, really?
It's like 2 hours and 49 minutes. Yeah, it's the same. Yet it's the same like with The Dark Knight Rises, where I didn't really feel the running time.
Yeah, that's one thing I will give him credit. It's very long, but they don't feel long at the same time. It takes a very I don't know really. I mean, I'm sure I can name some off the top of my head, but I could say Force Awakens was about just as long as this movie, like with J.J. Abrams, but it never loses momentum. It just goes and goes and goes. And last few times I've seen Force Awakens, I just go, this is a long movie, but I'm not feeling the runtime at all.
Is it the same running time as Batman Begins? I actually don't remember.
Maybe it's a couple minutes shorter. I read that it's like 2 hours and 16 minutes. This one was like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's about the same. It's about.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, here we go. Superior Spidey fan says, like, he could summon the bats to attack the SWAT. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Okay, real quick. How do you feel about that part when when he gets Gordon when he tells Gordon what's going on with Rachel, and he taps the bottom of his boot or something, and everybody hears the bats coming, and Gordon's like, what is that? And Batman just goes, back up. What the?
I actually laughed at that part, like a good kind of laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, because Flash was freaking out. What the hell?
And it's like all the policemen that are inside the building. They're just like, oh, the bats, get the bats off of me.
Oh, Batsy, you.
But I just love the way he says, back up.
Back up. And also, it's got a great moment, like where he's falling down in between those flights of stairs with the cape out. Awesome, awesome shot right there.
That was really awesome.
Yeah, and some people, I've heard maybe one or two people, like I remember Pretty Much It, like Eric from Pretty Much It back in 2012 when Dark Knight Rises was coming out. He was talking about the first two movies. He thought that it was a little too comic booky, I guess. I mean, for something like Batman Begins, like for the tone. And I get his point, but I didn't mind it personally.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And I also read that it's something taken out of Year One, Batman Year One, where he calls in the bats to distract the cops.
Yeah.
And it's a nice little source material nod right there, which, I mean, it's not exactly like a retelling of Batman Year One, but I read that this movie took a lot of inspiration from Batman Year One and also a little bit of The Long Halloween. I mean, mostly Dark Knight took inspiration from Long Halloween, but this one was very, I mean, I have Year One somewhere. I think it's in my other room, where it's Batman's first year as a crime fighter, or early days, and it's the inception of Batman. Inception. Yeah. How interesting. Yeah.
I get that joke right there.
Yeah. And, Dark Knight Rises was very inspired by Dark Knight Returns, which Batman's been away for so long, and then he comes back years later as an older Batman. So
Yeah.
which is what they're doing with Ben Affleck. I mean, we'll see how that goes when the movie comes out. But
Isn't the character like 50 years old in Dawn of Justice? Somewhere around that age?
he looks at least somewhere between 45 and 55. I mean, Ben Affleck in real life, he's about early 40s, but they make him look a little bit older than he is, which, like, they have the gray streak. He has the gray streaks in his hair, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of like Reed Richards in Fantastic Four, like, depending on which version you're reading, I guess.
Yeah. The power of cinema.
Exactly. Yeah. Superior Spidey fan says more like bad up. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Bad up, like with the bats coming in at Arkham Asylum. And Spent Lizard has the quote. We'll talk about this in The Dark Knight. Let me get this straight. You think your client, one of the wealthiest, most powerful men in the world, is secretly a vigilante who spends his nights beating criminals to a pulp with his bare hands, and your plan is to blackmail this person? Good luck. Yeah, we'll talk about that later, but that is a great line. He just kind of, I don't know if he misinterprets what that guy's trying to do, but it's just like, are you trying to blackmail this guy? He's one of the most powerful people in the world. You're not going to get away with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but anyway, with the final fight, I like how it's handled overall, and I like the climax of it all. And Rachel deciding not to be with Bruce because, as she says, then I found out about your mask. Which, by the way, I loved how Bruce Wayne revealed his identity to her right before he takes off. Like he says,
and it wasn't the cliche taking off the mask. He just says the quote that she basically told him to give her the hint that, yeah, yo, Rachel, I'm Batman.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that he does in Dark Knight Rises, like with Commissioner Gordon's. Like he mentions something or says something that only he and that other person would know. So I like how they use it that way.
Also, isn't that kind of surprising? It took 8 years for Commissioner Gordon to realize Bruce is Batman, because The Dark Knight Rises takes place 8 years after The Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, well I think it's because like we'll talk about that in Dark Knight Rises on our Dark Knight Rises discussion. But John Blake said to Bruce Wayne, he doesn't know, but he doesn't really care who you are, and even he says right before Batman reveals his identity, Gordon says, I never cared who you were.
Yeah, I know that.
So I think that is interesting. Like he never really uses detective skills, but then again, I don't think he just kind of went, you know what? I don't care who this guy is. He's taking a stand for something. So
and it goes back to what we were mentioning earlier about how he never really questioned Batman or anything. He just helps him with what Batman needs.
Sure, yeah. And it is a little sad that Rachel says like the man I love never came back, but hopefully he's still out there somewhere. And it carries over into Dark Knight, but it's not that. It kind of reminds me of the ending of the first Spider-Man movie, where Mary Jane tells Peter that you made me feel like I could be me, and I'm deeply in love with you. But Peter doesn't want to. He's afraid to tell her because he doesn't want to put her in danger, so he rejects her. But this time, it's all reversed. Rachel's the one who says that she's in love with him, but she rejects him because she can't be with him because of what he does as Batman.
Yeah.
Because he's not the same person he is the same person to her, but it's not the exact same person that she knew and cared for throughout most of her life.
Yeah, that's true.
It's sad, but also it's realistic, I would say. Because you understand why. Because she said, like, your face is now the one that criminals fear.
But at least they're still together with each other. Like at least they're still friends with each other. That's the at least good thing.
Sure, yeah. And and traveling the world, since he disappeared really quickly, traveling the world, understanding like the criminal elements and all that stuff. I like how that's done too, and we'll talk about that also with the Dark Knight Rises thing, like how do you get back to Gotham or whatever. But without his resources, and but the ending scene with Commissioner Gordon and Batman on the roof. That's a great ending. Each of these three movies has a great ending, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
And I do remember watching this, like, I think it was a year later. I didn't remember how it ended at first, because when I first watched this movie, I was 15 and I watched it on DVD. I didn't see this in the theater, but I didn't remember how it ended until a year later when I bought my DVD copy. And that when he's talking about escalation and all that stuff, and he says like, now take this guy. Armed robbery, double homicide, got a taste for the theatrical like you, and he leaves a calling card. And Batman turns it over. It's a Joker card. And the second time I saw that, when I saw that it was a Joker card, I lost my mind.
A great tease to the Dark Knight. Like, honestly, it's funny because when the movie wraps up, you think it was just gonna end without giving you any hints of what the sequel would be like. But then once it showed the card, and then Batman's all like, "I'll look into it." It's just a like great tease to the Dark Knight.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember showing this to my grandparents. My grandfather had read Batman comics and Superman comics when he was a kid, growing up in the 30s. And when I showed them the movie and they saw the Joker, they just went, "The Joker! The Joker's coming!" Yeah, comic book movies have kind of, I guess you could say, they've kind of gone the way of, this is the next villain we're doing in the sequel.
Yeah,
but I mean, I do like the scene, like the Joker card tease in this movie. But I'm not saying it was bad, but it's also kind of a curse, I guess, that comic book movies have kind of tended to save the biggest villain for the sequel and make a big deal out of it, like teasing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like how Batman just how he leaves by falling down, and of course flying, and then boom, it cuts to Batman Begins. And end credits.
Yeah,
that was really cool how the movie ended that last shot.
Yeah, and also, but right before, it's like whenever he says, "I'll look into it," and he goes, "I never said thank you, and you'll never have to."
That was a great line.
Yeah, people have made that joke, saying thank you to Christopher Nolan. It's like, "Mr. Nolan, I never said thank you for this trilogy. You'll never have to." It's a nice little joke right there, but
yeah, that is.
See, Rachel says, "I enjoyed rewatching it. I don't think the series is perfect like some seem to, but it's a good movie." And now she's saying that because she's told me, I've done a collaboration with her before, like best holiday films. We did that last month. She's not a really big fan of Batman, and I'm not a big fan of Superman, but I respect the character. So
yeah, and that's okay. Everyone's gonna have like different preferences to the superheroes.
Yeah, but in conclusion, I would say I love Batman Begins. It's one of my all-time favorites, believe it or not, along with the other two in the series.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, though, this movie has been like blamed for all the trends for reboots and dark and gritty vibes and so on. Like, Amazing Spider-Man went down that route, and The Man of Steel went down that route because Batman Begins did it. Like, I don't want to. If Kevin Morrison, that movie nerd, happens to be watching this, I'm not trying to put him down, but I did see him talk about this on Facebook one time on his personal profile. He said something like Chris Nolan's movies, like Batman Begins, kind of ruined Hollywood because of all the reboots and stuff. And to that, I got his point, but at the same time, I just went, I don't think it's really fair to say that, because it's not like Chris Nolan intended for all that stuff to happen.
Yeah, it's like when they announced this project, he's just the guy that got the job done, and obviously there's a reason why he was picked to direct this trilogy.
Sure, yeah, and I don't think he's like, I looked it up. I don't think he's necessarily a comic book fan, Chris Nolan, but he's very passionate about film. But he did his research, from what I can tell. He read a lot of the graphic novels that he took inspiration from, like with him, along with the writers like his brother and David Goyer.
Yeah.
And he wanted to do something. He wanted to tell an interesting story about Batman, but also keep it true to the idea of the characters. Like, you don't necessarily have to be a comic book fan to adapt a story like this, like to adapt a character like this, because I've seen people say that Tobey Maguire wasn't a big fan of the character, so he's not the right choice. I just go, you don't have to be. You don't have to be.
As long as you're able to present the character right or tell the story of the character right, I think that's honestly all that matters.
Yeah, and Tobey Maguire did do his research for Spider-Man. I mean, it wasn't like he just went in completely blind, because Sam Raimi's a big fan, and I'm sure he gave him a set of comics to read. And Christian Bale, I'm sure he said that he's read a few comics for Batman, like to prepare for the role. And from what I could tell, I don't know, he didn't sound like he was a big Batman fan when he was a kid, but he did his research. So I don't really think that's a fair thing to say, that if you're not a comic book fan, you shouldn't be doing a comic book movie. It's like, well, it gives you something different to do, something that you're not used to doing.
Yeah, like Christopher Nolan gave his own spin on this trilogy, and I think honestly it worked. Like, he respected the characters and all, but he made it his own thing.
Sure, yeah, and like with Ben Affleck's doing the next standalone Batman, and I think he said that he is a fan of Batman.
Yeah.
And that's a nice plus though. That is a good thing. But when people say that makes him the better choice, I just go, no, I don't care if he's a Batman fan or not. As long as he wants to do something good with it, then I'll give him a shot.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but with the whole reboots thing, I mean, Hollywood has copied everything right from the start. I think I saw you post something about that on Facebook. Like, people complain that there's no originality left in Hollywood, but you said something. You posted a picture that said something like, "No, unoriginality has been around since creativity in fiction came along, so it's nothing new."
Yeah, it's always been something that's been going on. Like, everyone always says that now these days there's no originality. There's no originality. It's always been about reboots, but it's always been like that. I mean, how many Friday the 13th movies do we have? Like 12 of them, I think.
Oh, I've lost count.
And look, we had 7 or 8 Nightmare on Elm Street movies. So like, it's always been a thing,
And people complain about adaptations of books and so on. We're like, well, back in the 1930s, Wizard of Oz was based off of a book series, so it's really not that different.
And there is still more original movies out there. You just have to. It's just up to you to be able to look out there. There's some big budget movies that are original, like say Inside Out, but then there's some independent films that have original stories to them, like say Birdman. So there is still a lot of originality out there. It's just up to you to go out there and look for it.
Yeah, and also Rachel, who's been watching our video, she like when she did her Force Awakens discussion podcast with her guests, she said that if you only liked original movies, you'd only like maybe 10 movies in your lifetime, because there's certain, like with this genre in particular, like superhero genre with Batman, I mean, you could have easily gone, the same on-the-nose, tired, formulaic approach, but it did in a way, but at the same time it didn't, because it's found new ways to spin it, but also sticking to the main idea of the formula. So
yeah,
that's the very important thing. And also, she also says something like, yeah, that's silly. Nolan did a good job. Of course, there are copycats, like what we said earlier, like with Hollywood copying everything and all that stuff. And she also said, well, and originality can be a mess, like Jupiter Ascending. Oh, God. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah. That movie was. I didn't hate that movie like everyone else does.
Okay.
Visually, it's impressive. Like, I think it's visually amazing, but just the movie itself didn't work out as well. But for it being an original movie, I give the Wachowskis at least a thumbs up for trying. So
I still haven't seen it, and I'm kind of afraid to, because I don't know if I could stomach it.
All I'll say is, even if you find it unbearable, you're gonna find Eddie Redmayne to be unintentionally funny. Like one of those things where you try to take seriously, but you just can't.
Oh God. Oh boy. But luckily he's got Fantastic Beasts coming up this year. So
yeah. And then he had that Theory of Everything. He had Les Miserables. So he's been in some good stuff.
I still have yet to see Theory of Everything. This girl I know who cuts my hair, like once I go to military duty every month.
Yeah.
She's a big fan of Eddie Redmayne. So
does she really like the Theory of Everything?
Oh, she loves it. She loves it. Whenever I talk about it, she gushes over it. It's just like I gush over Spider-Man and Batman.
I gotta check it out because I've been hearing really good things about it, and Eddie Redmayne, he won the Oscar for that, so I really wanted to check out how that movie turned out.
Sure, and this movie, Batman Begins, I don't think it won. It got nominated for Best Cinematography or something like that.
Did it? I don't really remember, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Dark Knight got like the most Oscar nods, and it's won. I think it won Best Sound Editing and Best Supporting Actor for Heath Ledger. But
Yeah.
I think this got at least one. And also, just real quick before we like discuss our final thought, like our concluding thoughts, like our overall consensus on the movie, I do like how there's a lot of practical stuff in here. I mean, I'm not against CG, but it's very clear that there's not a whole lot of CGI visual effects in this movie.
Yeah, a lot of the things in this movie were very practical, and I really appreciated that. And I think it honestly really worked that Christopher Nolan wanted to go for a more practical approach with these movies.
Yeah, and
when he does use the CGI, the CGI blends well with the practicality.
Sure, yeah, and he's used CGI before in his other movies. Like I know Inception was a prime example, and Interstellar, of course. I mean, you can't go up into space and film it from a spaceship. That's impossible.
But man, did he really make space look real?
Wow. Oh, yeah. The space in between spaces or something like that. Yeah. But let's see. Oh, yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything that we need to cover for Batman Begins.
I think we pretty much covered the beginning to the end of the movie, like the main plot points we needed to cover.
Yeah. And so Batman Begins, any final things to say about Batman Begins?
Overall, hold on. I have to do this with my mask. I just have to.
Please, by all means.
Overall, I love Batman Begins. If this Batman shirt and this mask doesn't tell you, then I don't know how I should prove it to you guys. But yes, I love Batman Begins. I think this was a very amazing start for Christopher Nolan to start off this amazing trilogy, in my opinion, because personally, as a whole, the Dark Knight trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. And I think how Christopher Nolan just started Batman Begins with his own take on Batman was really great, but he was able to still respect the characters for who they are. The visuals look great. The action set pieces are very well done. You could realize the characters. You understand each of the characters and care about the characters. Like even the villains, you could get a pretty big understanding on why they're doing something, even though you may disagree with it. It's very well told. Cinematography is beautiful, like with pretty much all Christopher Nolan movies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's very well directed. David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan did a great job writing this film. And overall, it's just a fantastic start. And honestly, it's just one of those movies I really don't have any real complaints with, if I have to be honest. I loved everything about Batman Begins. So, yeah, it's awesome. 2 thumbs up.
All right. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. It's a great start to the to this trilogy. Bruce, you see how Bruce Wayne's a human being. He's not just some big superstar kind of character. He's a human being, which is why I think he's a really interesting character. Just real quick, like, he may be a rich billionaire who has all this money and all these resources, but there is a bit of a complexity to him because of like his parents getting killed is like the main motivator as to why he becomes Batman. But he also may not be that different from the villains that he fights, especially the Joker, which we will talk about with Dark Knight, and also with Dark Knight Rises with Bane and all those other characters. But yeah, pretty much covered everything. So thank you to the people who submitted your user questions. Love hearing your feedback. And 22TigerDude or Tony, thank you for joining me on this podcast. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I can't wait to talk about the next movie, The Dark Knight.
Me too, man. Thanks so much for having me back here to talk about Batman Begins, and I look forward to talking about the other 2 with you.
All right. So I'll have the date and time set for next month once I figure out what my schedule is, and plus we've had because I'm back in school and I'm going to school and also work, I have to figure out when the best time is for me, and you and I are both in different time zones, so we can't really work on the same time.
Damn you, time zones.
Yeah, and also we had a big snowstorm here, so that's not going to really help either.
I heard about some people having some snowstorm during the week. Well, I already had my snow literally since the day after Christmas, so I already had my fun with the snow.
Oh,
but yeah, I did hear about everyone's snowstorm though.
Yeah, It's not fun. But let's see. Rachel says, "Great discussion, guys." Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
And so we'll wait. So tune in next time for our discussion on The Dark Knight. See you guys.
Tiger power.